Hey. You know, I was thinking about writing a tribute to Red vs. Blue and really Rooster Teeth as a whole, and then I realized that what I would actually be doing is writing a love letter to that creative impulse that inspired an entire generation of internet content creation. Let me explain. It's the same impulse that would look at something like Halo and see so much more than just a video game to enjoy for a couple hours. But instead it would see an entire 19-season series, which would spark an incredibly unique media company and a network of creativity spanning over 2 decades, which would be responsible for some of the most original and entertaining shows, podcasts, movies, and events to date for an internet company. But I feel like this isn't the best place to explain it. Walk with me.
Now I bet you're wondering why we're here. Wait, sorry, not here. Here! Doesn't this feel so much better? Anyway, why are we here? Well, you may recognize this as one of many multiplayer maps in a video game called Halo, which is technically correct, this is Halo 3, but it's also where a significant portion of the show Red vs. Blue takes place. You see, when Rooster Teeth started making RVB, they were pioneers in their craft. Back in 2003, the show started with just a couple of guys making jokes and bobbing the players' heads in a video game. But the show's popularity quickly caught fire, and it received 20,000 views within just the first day it was posted. And while 20,000 may not seem like a lot these days, it definitely was back in 2003, before everyone and their mom had a computer in their hands. And RVB was shared and created years before YouTube existed. Think about that for a second. You know when YouTube or Instagram takes forever to process a video and you're like, what's going on? Well, it's actually transcoding, processing, and copying the video in all different qualities so it can be formatted to fit a computer screen of any size, as well as a TV, a smartphone, or anywhere else you might play the video. So Rooster Teeth had to do all of that on their own and then upload it and convince people who had never heard of them to visit their random website. They had to show RVB at festivals and get the word out before social media even existed. Trying to explain that to a kid today would be like explaining how people made sandwiches before sliced bread, or like before bread at all. RVB was being shared all across the internet, and the growing fan base was craving more of this wacky but unique video game comedy about 2 opposing armies slowly losing interest in their war against each other. While Red vs. Blue wasn't technically the first machine-animated cinema, or Machinima as it's now known, it was definitely one of the early adopters of the medium, and the most successful by far, winning several awards throughout the years, being widely known as the longest-running internet series, and earning the respect of a generation of young filmmakers and Halo nerds alike. Now, Red vs. Blue's early seasons definitely have their flaws, don't get me wrong, but they're fun and they've got a hell of a lot of heart for a series that initially only intended to be 6 episodes long. It's clear the writers were trying to find the story along the way, with some overcomplicated plot structures and limited characters, and some of this was due to the game's limitations at the time. See, most shows operate on the principle called show don't tell, which implores writers to let the audience see the ideas and the actions of the characters instead of just being told about them. But RVB often couldn't do that in a video game, and so they had to become really creative with the dialogue to keep it interesting while telling us a lot more things than a show would normally tell us. Crazy enough, for the first 5 seasons, Red vs. Blue had to rely on another player in the game to act as the camera. They would only edit out the health bar on the top and the gun on the bottom later to create this sort of odd but unique, kind of like an ultra-widescreen experience. You could even faintly see the crosshairs of the gun still in the middle of the screen. It wasn't until this game you see right now, Halo 3, when the video game developers at Bungie added in their own theater mode. This gave players access to previously played matches to pause, rewind, and explore with a free floating camera, which would cater to Halo fans everywhere who wanted to make their own machinimas and wanted to make them look more cinematic. This, along with a more fleshed out story and several new key characters, added a much needed weight to the series, deeming the 6th season and beyond some of the more beloved and respected. With Rooster Teeth ending and RVB's long-awaited final season airing this spring, I felt a little thank you was in order for the Reds and Blues.
You're absolutely right!
Well, speak of the devil and they appear. Did you hear about what happened to Rooster Teeth?
Yeah, we're on top of the situation.
So you know that the guys who started RVB are closing their doors after 21 years.
Oh, yeah, I meant we were on top of everything right up until that point.
Wait, what?
Yeah. After all this time, it's actually over.
Oh God, get me a shovel!
No, Simmons, it's all right. Every great story has to end sometime. Honestly, a lot of fans were upset that the story continued at all after season 13 since they were so happy with that ending.
This is the worst funeral I've ever had.
Guys, I'm trying here. I'm trying to get the point across that, yes, Rooster Teeth and Red vs. Blue definitely had their rough patches, but with everything they accomplished and all the fans they inspired, their impact will continue on for a long time. Did you guys have anything in mind to say goodbye?
Don't say goodbye.
Yes, sorry. Aside from Tex, does anyone have anything in mind other than Tex?
How about delivering the eulogy?
Gladly, Sarge. Well, it's hard to believe it, but Rooster Teeth is dead. But RVB lives on. I was pleasantly surprised to hear that the final season was written by Rooster Teeth's founder, Burnie Burns. He was the frontrunner of the show during the first 10 years, and he left as the head when he completed his incredible arc at the end of season 10. After seeing him leave Rooster Teeth in 2019, it's really awesome to have him back for one last hurrah. Frankly, this is closure. Burnie mentioned this on his new podcast, and I agree. Season 19, this final season of Red vs. Blue, will be the best goodbye we could have ever asked for fans who practically worshipped you guys over the years for how you changed the game.
It's not fair. I worshipped church way before it was cool to worship him.
I know you did, Caboose. The point is, Red vs. Blue had a different level of fan commitment. Several friends I haven't spoken to for years reached out to me when they heard about Rooster Teeth. One of them reminded me of the time in middle school when I had to download the first few seasons and personally edit them in Windows Movie Maker to remove the cuss words from the series just so he would be allowed to watch it. After editing those seasons, I would burn them to DVDs and hand them out at school for the kids who couldn't watch it with curse words. That was a fun time, sharing that show with all my friends like that. As far as I was concerned, this show was always the gold standard for internet storytelling. When I started making YouTube videos back in 2011, RVB was among Rhett and Link and Julian Smith and Tobuscus and all those others as my main inspirations. I remember making my own YouTube series called Project Alpha, where I attempted using Machinima in the first episode, but I didn't really have an external hard drive for my Xbox, so my friends and I just recorded the TV with our camera while we played Halo with one hand on the controller. Then we spoke into the cameras in real time for the voiceover. It looked and sounded horrible, but we felt so cool to be making a Halo show at the time, so we didn't really care. And you know, for a goofy internet series about standing around and talking, there was quite a bit of poetry in between the lines. Actually, the closing monologue of season 8 is something I memorized as a kid and used to recite to impress girls who like poetry. No joke.
Bow chicka bow wow.
Yeah, little did they know I got it from an internet comedy show based on Halo. RVB also had a knack for breaking expectations while working within the bounds and rules of the Halo game engine to create interesting camera work, sets, and through lines. It was especially cool when they would outright break those rules with no warning at all. I still remember my first time watching Season 8 when they brought in Monty Ohm's brilliant animation by driving a warthog through a wall. This was something you could not do in the game engine. It was the craziest thing to see. It significantly improved what they could achieve in the visual complexity and fighting choreography of the show while staying true to the colors and tone of the machinima, so it wasn't so jarring to switch back and forth from actual animation to just the normal video game with the head bobbing. And anytime I bring up RVB around one of my cousins, it's funny because she always remembers it as that weird video game show that made me cry. Because she came over to my house when I was in middle school watching the conclusion of season 10, and she saw me tearing up. She looked at the video game characters on the screen and asked, "What the heck are you watching?" I felt like I had no way to briefly explain to her the brilliance and heart of this show. Because RVB isn't really a show. It breaks every rule and standard of the media that came before it. It's absolutely stupid, as well as heartfelt. It's jarringly odd, but wholly unique. Some episodes can be formulaic while still finding ways to stay fresh and clever. And at times it feels completely improvised, yet somehow with a thought-out through line that connects all of those details you may have mistaken for meaningless throwaway lines. It can make you laugh, roll your eyes, and yes, even cry. It truly is one of my favorite shows ever. Of all time. And if you haven't had the chance to watch it yet, I implore you, and I entreat you to head over to roosterteeth.com and give it a shot while you still can. The thing is, lots of fans are worried about it being deleted in the wake of Rooster Teeth. This is exactly what happened when the YouTube giant Machinima was closed down a couple of years ago. In preparation, they've been actively archiving all of the Rooster Teeth content as a permanent record. These are the videos that inspired us to be creative with whatever we had in front of us. Whether it's a couple microphones, a cheap camera, or even just a video game, and the fans are doing their best to make sure they won't be forgotten or lost to the oblivion of the internet. Creating content beyond the bounds of traditional limits like this is at the heart of what makes the internet so great. We can create the kind of content that never would have seen the light of day 30 years ago. You would have had to convince a television or movie studio to pour their money into a show with no camera, no facial expressions, and a single set for the first 2 seasons. It never would have happened. But today, right now, this is our time to take a page out of RVB's book and stretch our creative limits a little more to make something truly new and exciting. Thanks for that, Rooster Teeth. To Burnie, Matt, Geoff, Gus, Gavin, Barbara, Joel, and all the rest of you guys, I am so grateful I got to grow up with all of your content. The RT podcast, Immersion, Achievement Hunter, the Slow-Mo guys, but most importantly, with Red vs. Blue. Thank you for inspiring me to make content before needing fancy cameras or equipment to do so, but instead, to just get out there and do it. I guess that about wraps it up. Did you guys have any questions for me?
Did you use your hyperdrive to get here, or just the light drive? Does your gun shoot brownies?
What?
You'll have to excuse Sarge. He comes from the old school.
Ask him if he likes baseball.
My fault. I should have been more specific.
Wish us luck.
Yeah, absolutely, Church. Good luck, you guys. You'll be remembered for a long time to come, that's for sure. And you know what they say about memory.
Yeah. Wait, what?
It's the key. Memory is the key.
Yeah, I think I'll just stick to baseball.
Later, guys. Thanks for all the laughs. And don't forget...
I really need to adjust the sights on this thing.
That must mean you're dead. I'm really sorry you died.
A great love is a lot like a good memory. When it's there and you know it's there, but it's just out of your reach. It can be all that you think about. And of course you can focus on it and try to force it, but the more you do, the more you seem to just push it away. But if you're patient and you hold still, then maybe, just maybe, it'll come to you. You just have to make sure you're somewhere it can find you. And I mean, heck, if you have to live the rest of your life with a memory, you might as well make it a good one.